Hello.
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 Welcome to the OC, bitch. And this is how it's done in Orange County.
We don't. We talk about all sorts of things all the time. We talk about music. We talk about sailing. What?
Right, about how you named your boat after her, how you made her a burned CD with all your favorite songs with the word summer in it.
Wow.
Seth, what are you doing inside on this beautiful day? Why don't you show Ryan around?
Okay, because it's so great around here. There's so much to do, Dad.
Who are you?
Whoever you want me to be.
Okay.
Jimmy Cooper? He stole from his clients, he stole from his friends, and then he had the nerve to borrow $100,000 from us to cover it up.
He was trying to provide for his family.
Yeah, boats, ponies.
So you'll defend a two-time drug offender, but you won't defend...
Yes. My clients are kids who have no hope.
You look good.
Luke, I'm Marissa's mother. You're a student at the school.
I mean, it's over?
No, I'll see you tonight.
Who's pathetic enough not to have a date the day before, Cotillion?
Dad beat up my dad at my debutante.
Oh, you can't blame Holly for that.
I know, Jim. I've heard. He still has your prom photo up on our wall.
What do you want from me?
I want a divorce.
I never should have broken up with you in the first place.
I don't know what I should do.
Why don't you just let me know when you made up your mind?
You chose Luke, huh? Gino didn't stand a chance.
Why did you become so cynical?
When did you become so self-righteous?
Who cares? Listen to me. The point is, that guy doesn't know you. He doesn't care about who you really are. In fact, he has no idea that every day of third grade you shared your lunch with that little skinny squirrel who kept getting his nuts stolen by that fat squirrel.
Hated that mean squirrel.
And none of those guys were there when you had to read your poem aloud in class and your hand was shaking because you were nervous and you cared what the other kids thought.
Hi, and welcome to the High Fives podcast, episode 105. Hey, Justin, how's it going?
It's going well, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, 105. That's a lot of episodes. It sounds ridiculous. It's also the last episode of the season. You made it through a whole season with me, Justin.
I did. I can't believe it's already we're catching the end of the year here. It's crazy. It's gone by so fast.
It has gone by really fast. Are you sticking around, or are you hoping that Nate doesn't get his job and comes back? Or you?
I'm happy. I'm happy to keep going. Of course, I maintain my position as just a bench warmer, so the seat is always his if he's ready to make a return, or I'm happy to keep filling in.
You know how it is in sports. Like the young rookie comes in, the old veteran might be injured or something. New rookie.
That's right.
Comes
I'm going to be Brady to his Bledsoe.
You might be. Anyway, it's been fun doing this with you. I'm really stoked that you're still into it. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to keep the year thing up. We'll have to talk. You and me will have to talk off air if we're going to keep going with the years, or if I'm going to toss an audible to you and move back to topics. But we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, we'll discuss it at our next managers retreat.
Yeah, of course. You're paying for that, right? That's
yeah, Camp David. I think we'll do again.
So. Before we get into the topic, some more questions for you, Justin, because I know how much you love being put on the spot.
You son of a bitch.
Here we go. Justin, what's your favorite music-related memory?
That's an interesting question. There's so many of my memories are connected to music. Do I go to a concert? Is it actually, here's a pretty good one. Driving out to Warped Tour in Vancouver and listening to Me First and the Gimme Gimmes Have a Ball, like their first album. Driving through sort of the lower mainland BC towards Vancouver just sticks out as teenage road trip, driving my car, listening to that album, pulling it out of that booklet of CDs. I will always equate that part of the country, that time in my life, and that album as just being intrinsically connected.
Very cool. Good answer. I wasn't there, but I've heard the stories.
Yeah, we had a great time.
It's because I wasn't there.
You draw those conclusions.
Is that the See You in Calgary incident? Doesn't matter. Good choice. Also, CD booklets. Great nostalgia kick. I did see that. We've talked about this before, but CDs are making a huge comeback. And I just read an article, I believe it was in Rolling Stone. It said how much some CDs are worth now, and some of them are weird things like play copies and stuff, and going for thousands and thousands of dollars.
Why?
It's insane. I love CDs, but I know you don't, but I love them. Second question. So this one comes up because I was having lunch with one of our friends the other day, and he said his girls loved watching music videos when they go away to his cabin because they've got cable there and they don't have it at home. And their cable grabs American MTV. And he said American MTV is now playing music videos again. And his girls are just like obsessed with seeing music videos. So Justin, do you have a favorite music video?
It's a pretty easy one for me. My favorite music video is Sabotage by the Beastie Boys.
I mean, that's got to be top 10 of all time music videos, if not number 1 for all time.
Yeah.
So some of the reason I brought up the music video thing is that like it's so interesting for our generation, I would say, how impactful the music video was, because we didn't have outlets to discover music before the internet, really. So like if you saw a cool music video, like, and I'm not thinking like at like prime time, but like we had a show called The Wedge and stuff, and I don't know what the other one was called. What was the metal one called? Do you remember what the metal one was called on Much Music?
Loud. Was it called?
Oh
Loud?
Yeah. Was it Loud? Or was it Loud later, like when they had the punk show? And anyway, either way, we just got exposed to like certain things and like in ways that the radio wasn't playing for us at the time. So it was always cool. It's cool to see that they're making a comeback. I'm curious to see how impactful they would be now. And I still like a good music video, but I mean, like, I'm not sitting around waiting to watch it on TV right now. I'm just like, if one happens to pop up on YouTube, then I might see it. Third question, sorry, not four. Third question.
I thought I was getting out of this quicker.
No, sorry, sir. Is there a band you loved as a teenager, and when you go back and listen, you know it no longer holds up, but you still listen based purely on nostalgia reasons? This whole podcast might be that.
I was about to say, I don't know if you've been listening for the last year, but I would say 60% of my picks. Probably, not that none of them hold up. They probably mean more to me than maybe they should. And there's probably in any of those albums like a 70% like nostalgia, 30% this is still good.
Statistics can prove anything, hey?
Yeah. No, maybe like 40% nostalgia, 30% this is still pretty good, and like 30% just like general reluctance to listen to new music.
Okay.
And sort of keep evolving.
Okay. I'm not going to put you on the spot to pick something then. I get what you're saying. It's fair. Last one then, Justin. You hate holiday music, right?
Absolutely.
Is there a Christmas or holiday song you do enjoy?
There are a couple. The most notable is the No Use for a Name cover of Fairy Tale in New York.
That's a great pick.
Yeah,
So.
it's a pretty good original, but their cover is so much better.
Great pick, Justin. You're off the hook now for at least another year, or not a year. Well, I guess it would be a new year because we'll start
Until
in
next
January.
year,
Yeah, it'll be a new year.
Yeah.
It all makes sense. Let's get to what you were listening to.
Whoa! Let's not jump ahead too fast, Mike. Just because I've answered my questions doesn't mean that you've answered yours.
You didn't actually come up with questions, did you? You
I did.
no prep.
And we're gonna start slowly. We're gonna let you get accustomed to it. We're just gonna do one question.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
you're 105 episodes deep, so people have had a far greater chance to get to know you, but there's still some burning questions on the listeners' minds. So this one was sent in. No, it wasn't. I just made it up. But I do appreciate the puzzled look on your face. Like,
People
who's sending
listen?
you things? Obviously, there's still an importance for a lot of the bands we listen to on names and product and packaging. Perhaps nothing more important than good old merch. And I wanted to ask you, Mike, is there a favorite piece of band merch that you own or always wanted?
Ooh, that is a good question because I do enjoy band merch, and it's something that that doesn't fit me anymore. So you had actually purchased me that Menzingers t-shirt with Jason on it for the, I don't know what,
Mm-hmm.
what I can't remember if it's the album title on it or if it's the song title, but you got it at Fest for me. And that's one of my favorite merch shirts, but it no longer fits me. So that would be one of them for sure. And one that I wish I owned is I wish I owned a Propagandhi t-shirt. I don't own a Propagandhi t-shirt. I've always wanted to own, there's a metal band from Canada called Razor, who were like an 80s metal band. And Propagandhi did kind of a tribute to Razor and had that. I really wanted that t-shirt and I didn't buy it because the shipping for Propagandhi merch comes from the States for some fucking unknown reason. and it's insane to order from there. So I've never been able to get it. That or a How to Clean Everything t-shirt, because I just like the colors on the How to Clean Everything t-shirts. Not even my favorite Propaganda album, but I do like how those look.
Oh, good answer. I had a Propaganda shirt for a handful of months, and then it got thrown away by my parents because it had the F word on it.
At least your parents admitted to throwing away. Mine would just disappear. They'd just be like lost in the laundry, because my mom did my laundry when I was younger.
Yeah, this was early high school.
Yeah, mine. I had lots of t-shirts that went missing in high school. I didn't even try to get a Propaganda one because I don't think my parents would have liked any F words on those. I did have a Metalla fucking cow one that went missing though. So you win some, you lose some. And a Reverend Horton Heat one that went missing too, that had a busty devil lady on it.
Oh,
Also
we know
missing.
all about the shirt.
Yeah, that's a made up story. Anyway, I'm off the hook for the rest of the questions.
That's it. Yeah.
All right,
it's going to be one this time, 2 next week or next episode.
Sweet. Thanks, Justin. I enjoyed that question. So what have you been listening to? I guess this is sort of another question.
Yeah, this feels like we're right back into the Inquisition.
Yeah.
I've been a little bit slow in the new music consumption, so I haven't been listening to a whole lot of new stuff. But a couple things that have come across my selections lately have been the album Ephemera, which is the new Ben Quad album, which I think is their second album that they've put out, second full length.
I think it's the second full length. I think they might have a couple EPs in there somewhere or something, or singles, but
yeah, like and I guess like the new way of releasing music, like albums and then a whole bunch of like EPs and singles. And yeah, I was sort of slept on these guys. They actually opened for Hot Mulligan and Spanish Love Songs about a year ago, and I didn't make it early enough to the show to see them, which is really too bad because I've been listening to them since and actually quite like them. So really just kind of, if you like Hot Mulligan, you'll probably like this band. It's the best way I can describe them.
I thought that the new one kind of sounds almost like a lot of the stuff that came out in the year we're doing right now, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, actually, that's a pretty good observation. Like, I think it has maybe a little bit more of those like early to mid 2000s, like screamo-ish kind of vibes to it. So, which unsurprisingly, I like a lot. And then the other one is I wasn't sure how I would feel about this, but I'm glad I did listen to it. My assumption going in is that it would just disappoint on all levels, and that turned out not to be true. It was actually some pretty cool interpretations, and that was the Shape of Punk to Come. I can't remember what the last word is.
Just say tribute. I know what you're talking about.
It's the Refused tribute album that just came out fairly recently, and I quite liked it. I thought there were some really cool covers of all the songs on the album. As we've talked about a handful of episodes again, it is my favorite album of all time, and I think the bands that contributed to it really stepped up and delivered and paid. Like it's not like a straight up how well can we play this close to the original. I think a lot of bands kind of added their own flavor and touch to it, which was pretty cool.
That's what I really liked about it. It was like usually with those tribute albums could go either way, right? And like sometimes just hearing a cover played properly is great too. Like you can still hear hints of the band covering its tone, but most of this album people took liberty and did their own sort of thing. Like the one that really stood out was the Touche Amore one. Like I thought that was done really well. And for me, and I put this in the WhatsApp chat and kind of laughed about it. I think it's the first time that I've understood all of the lyrics in a Refused song. Like, so it's kind of cool. One thing, and you brought this up in the WhatsApp chat, but is I never knew that Crazy Town once covered New Noise, and you had brought up how much they had hated that. It's not on this album. Just to clarify, it's not on this album.
It's almost too bad. It would have been a fantastically ironic addition. But yeah, like I guess they used to play it in, like, I don't think they ever recorded it, but like played it at live shows, and Refused caught wind of it, and Dennis said like basically like stop playing our song. Like if there's something to the effect of like if that's what you think we meant with this album, you clearly didn't listen close enough. So
go back to the Butterfly song.
Yeah.
Oh man, that made me laugh quite a bit when you posted that. Anything else you've been listening to? I know it's been a busy month, so if you haven't, that's fine.
Yeah, a couple things I would like to get to that I haven't had a chance to yet. Probably the first one I'll check out next is the new release from The Implants. Their last album had a couple like really great singles on it that were just like, you know, back to like that very SoCal punk rock sound of like pull your 10-foot pole or no use for a name, like just good sort of 90s inspired skate punk. So look forward to checking that album out.
I feel like that would be right up your alley. For sure.
Yeah.
And
That's it. No other throwbacks.
No
nothing.
throwbacks, no anything. That's all right. It's all good. People probably don't really care what we listen to anyways. This is just a vanity thing for me to name bands that no one knows. That's what this is really about.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna back that right out. There is something kind of from the archives that I was listening to, and then I actually went back to see what year it came out because I thought maybe I could sneak it into this episode or the next one. But it's actually from 2001, and it's the No Doubt album.
Oh, nice.
Rocksteady. I'm confusing it with Less Than Jake, and I almost called it Hello Rocksteady, which would not be the album. Yeah, it's Rocksteady. Yeah, it came out in 2001, and I've been listening to it because I'm trying to get my two girls to start liking like No Doubt or like something in that vein, and they actually really like it. So it was a big win. But that album is really good. Like it's, obviously like a pretty big departure from their more ska-ish, punkish roots. If those were even, not that they were the strongest, but they were certainly like in that vein. But it's so well recorded, so well put together, and just a really well
it's awesome.
Conceived and executed album.
I mean, I love No Doubt, so it's like kind of, but that album's so good. And you're right. The production on it's awesome. I believe, if I recall, they went down to Jamaica and did a lot of stuff there, like kind of encompassing all the dance hall stuff, and that's why they got a lot of the dance hall stuff in there and those kind of things. I still listen to that one a lot. Good pick, Justin. Good throwback pick. It doesn't feel old either when you listen to it, which is kind of cool. It doesn't.
No, it's still like
and a lot of those songs were singles that you still hear like on the radio, and they, like usually when that happens, you're like, oh, I'm sick of this. But it's a pretty good album. Good pick.
Yeah, this came about from like Gwen Stefani's on like a song on the Trolls soundtrack. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can sort of make a bit of a link back, and they'll check out some No Doubt stuff. So
that's how you do it, man. That's how you do it. Good picks.
Been infiltrated.
First band I'm listening to is a band called the Hammerbombs, and their album F for Effort. I came across this randomly the other day. I don't even know how. I think maybe one of their band members posted on some sort of punk message board thing that I just happened to see. It's pop punk that reminds me a lot of the stuff that was coming out probably like 8 years ago-ish. That would have been like bands that were really into playing fest or on that Larry Livermore comp that came out, like sort of like that Dopamines pop punk or Copyrights kind of thing, or Dear Landlord, those kind of bands. It's really good. They describe themselves as East Bay folks who like to drink the beers and play the pop punk. They said they've been in a million bands and will probably be in a million more. And right now we're in this one, so get into it, which is like very pop punk to say about yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what bands they were in before, but it's a lot of fun, and it hit the spot this week. Worth checking out if you're into that sort of thing. In keeping with that theme, the second album I'm listening to is the new Dopamines album. It's phenomenal. It's worth the 7 or 8 year wait that it's been, and it might be the best Dopamines album. Front to back, no filler, straight ahead, melodic pop punk, catchy riffs, great lyrics. I knew I was going to like this album, but I didn't know how much I was going to like it. So kudos to them. Next band is the usual band that Justin's going to laugh at for me picking. The band is called Pizza Death. The album is called Reign of the Antichrist. This band is from...
I sometimes think you're actually making this stuff up.
I am not making this up. They are from Melbourne, and I'm surprised none of the Aussie members of the WhatsApp chat didn't mention this band to me. They're a crossover hardcore band that has a pizza theme, which is probably...
That's actually right up my alley.
And I know you're thinking, there's no way this could be as good as I'm making it, but it's surprisingly awesome. If you're fans of pizza, bands like Municipal Waste or Power Trip, and you like more sound clips than a Good Riddance album, then you're going to love this album. It's 20 songs in 27 minutes, and it'll get you thinking about pizza thrash in a good way. Apparently pizza thrash was a negative term in the late 80s for like thrash bands that were trying to capitalize on like Metallica and Megadeth and those kind of things. But these guys are legit. It's awesome. They use like a ton of Simpsons sound clips, which is also up my alley. Basically every song is about pizza. They have one called Reclaim the Hut, one called Pasta of Puppets, one called Avoid the Noid.
What a great reference.
It's
all right. I
it's
take
great.
it all back. I am so sold.
You might like it. It's great. And the last one that I've been listening to, a little off-brand from the podcast, it's Lindi Ortega and her new album, From the Ether. This album was too good to skip mentioning it on the podcast. I'm a huge fan of Lindi Ortega, and so it was awesome to find her putting out a new album and finding her voice again and giving it another crack after an extended period of time off due to illness and burnout and what I would guess is overall disgust with the music industry. That's sort of what I've got out of it. Her voice was wrecked, I think, after touring so long, and I think she just basically gave up and moved to a small town in BC. So it's kind of cool. She got back on the horse. This album itself is super interesting. It involves a theme of ghosts, spirits, and haunting, and it works so well with her voice and style. The storytelling blends excellent with the production, and I love she's got these little sound bites that like are kind of just like radio dials, but they make it kind of eerie. Like it's almost like if you've ever seen any of those like shitty ghost hunter things, like when they're like trying to say like, oh, that was a ghost noise, and you're like, it sounds like feedback. But they've done a good job of like making that kind of eerie tap in between songs. It's really cool. She's one of my favorite singers because her voice has a soul and jazz element that mixes so well with the folk and roots and country sort of sound. So if you're looking for something like that, go pick that up. 100% recommend. And that's what I've been listening to.
Nice. Some good picks and definitely some stuff to check out. I do quite like her sound. Like there's just like a classic and authenticness to it.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Like folk and roots can sometimes can drag, but I think it's because she sounds like, she's an amazing singer, but it doesn't sound like your typical folk or rootsy singer. Like she's got so much soul to it. Like she's awesome. It's kind of a shame. Like she lived here, and I don't think I ever saw her play live here. So I guess we should get moving on to the year 2003. That's the year we're doing, right, Justin?
That is the one. I had a few moments of crisis, as I usually do, as to whether or not that's the correct year. I know it lines up so well with the episode number, so it just keeps getting worse.
It does. It's less concerning now because it seems like farther off, but it's still pretty bad. We really should have planned that a little bit better. I'm going to try to go through this even quicker this time because I tried to do that last episode, and we still like somehow ended up at 2 hours. Like I have no idea how. But I cut so much stuff out of it too. But here goes.
All right, let's hit it. 2003.
Right, 2003.
What could have possibly happened?
Big news events. There was a war in Iraq. The goal was to dismantle Saddam Hussein's regime, which the U.S. alleged was hiding weapons of mass destruction, sometimes known as...
They were, weren't they?
WMDs. None were ever found. The war led to significant casualties and lots of controversy, sparking widespread protests out worldwide. And relevant to our podcast, there was a lot of outcry in the music community, rightfully so, and specifically in the punk rock community against George Bush and this whole thing. So war is never a good thing, especially when it seems kind of made up. SARS outbreak, which I mean we should all be familiar with now. I mean, we probably should have learned from it. We didn't, and we saw what happened. That all panned out a few years later.
Yeah, this one's interesting because I feel like I remember like hearing about SARS, and but it was never I never felt like we were in like a sort of crisis, even though like Toronto got hit pretty bad.
Yeah, like Toronto was shut down. Like they went in lockdown, like we did the rest of the world did with COVID. Wasn't
there also like a SARS benefit concert, which I would imagine.
Yeah, I think like the Rolling Stones played it.
Like wouldn't that involve crowding a bunch of people into like a?
Well, it was after
some sort of venue.
It was after the pandemic or epidemic ended.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they didn't just say let's just have a big fucking concert. This wasn't.
Let's get everyone together, really talk about this thing.
Yeah. See, that's what happened when we had COVID, and people were like, let's just get together. That's the way to solve this, right? Get together. Anyway, speaking of things to come that probably weren't great, Arnold Schwarzenegger was elected the governor of California. And while that's a mixed bag, I have a soft spot for him. And maybe I shouldn't, but I spent many a childhood day renting his movies. So it has always kind of humored me that he became a governor. Either way, much like SARS, the celeb politician would only become worse as time went on. And much like the goggles, we did nothing about it.
Maybe it doesn't matter. I was going to say I've seen or heard a couple interesting things about why he did it, but we don't need to get into it. It's fine.
If you
This
get
is
a
how
chance,
it becomes 2 hours.
if you're interested in it, his documentary on Netflix is very good. He doesn't shy away from some of the shitty things that he did in life. So, and which I think is kind of a rarity these days. To admit you fucked up is kind of hard for people. So
Yeah.
super interesting if you like him. A sidebar on the topic of theme bands, there's a thrash band called Austrian Death Machine, which songs are related to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Pretty fun stuff. I think the guy from Every Time I Die is in it, maybe, or the guy that's got arrested from Every Time I Die. So I don't know how you feel about that either. Big music and celebrity deaths happened this year. Johnny Cash, who was only 71, which is really fucking shocking because when that video for Hurt came out, I swear he looked like he was 95.
Yeah. I think he had a couple, good years on the on the road that probably put some miles on that body.
But yeah, like 71's not that old. And he seemed ancient, but I remember him dying, and I remember working at the record store and how much his album sold after he died. And before I worked in the record store, I was never a big Johnny Cash fan, but I turned into one there. Nina Simone died, who I love. Barry White died. Bob Hope and John Ritter. And I only bring up the John Ritter thing because I saw a clip the other day of his son doing an impression of his dad's creepy Three's Company face, which if you can find, 100% worth it. Also, I loved Three's Company as a kid, which is
So did I.
super problematic. And also as a kid, there's no way I understood anything that was going on. But
yeah, there's a lot of not so subtleties in there that I would have missed.
Anyway, pop culture was much of the same in the last few years. Like we discussed, alternative culture really crossed over to the mainstream. So we see it in music, fashion, TV, and movies. And on that note, MySpace starts up, which kind of adds to all this. And I would say this really influenced people's musical tastes and fashion tastes and created a whole kind of subculture that continued as social networking became more popular. But I think MySpace really peaked the whole I'm an emo kid or I'm a goth kid, or I'm a mall punk rock kid thing. 2 major TV shows debuted that year, both of which I could talk about for days.
Tell me more.
Oh, you're going to like it. The first show, Arrested Development, which is maybe a top 10 comedy of all time. And while music wasn't a big part of it, this show probably influenced my humor in a way that no other show other than Seinfeld and Simpsons had in years. I swear, I'm pretty sure we still make jokes about Arrested Development all the time.
I'm literally watching Arrested Development, working my way through the seasons for, I don't know, the 10th time or something.
It's so good.
Right now. It's so good. And every time I watch it, there's something that I pick up on or just laugh at even harder than I did before.
Yeah, it's amazing how timeless it is. It's so good. What a well-written show. And I think kind of different now, maybe not so much now, but at that time it seemed kind of different too, right?
Oh, it was so off the wall. Just everything about it, the way it was written, the way it was edited, just very quirky.
And the next show was The OC, which we've already discussed has the best song about California as its theme song. But it also really speaks to how punk, emo, skate, nerd culture crossed over in the mainstream. I think the character of Seth made it okay to like that stuff. Maybe it was an over-exaggeration, being as someone who liked that kind of stuff. I don't think maybe it was as accepted by popular kids as much as, or popular people, as much as they did in make it seem in the show. But I think it opened people up to those ideas. The soundtrack and the music in that show really brought indie rock to a whole group of people who had never thought of bands like Death Cab for Cutie before. And for me personally, it got me into a lot of that indie rock stuff that I never really cared for. As a punk rock kid, I kind of turned up my nose to a lot of that stuff originally, or I'd be like, I'm not hipster enough for that or whatever. And the OC got me into a lot of stuff like Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Postal Service, Transatlantic, the Death Cab's Transatlanticism. So there, and the White Stripes, and there was a lot of bands that were on that show that they'd have them on the set doing as a band they'd go see and stuff like that. And there's just lots of
at the
cultural
Peach Pit.
reference. The Peach Pit's 90210.
I know.
Come on.
I couldn't think of the name of the bar.
I think they called the Sand Bar or something. I feel like something stupid like that. Either way, what's her name? The one that she's super famous now, but ran it. Anyway, if you want to talk about the OC and you feel like just talking about the OC with me, I'm all for it. I know Justin liked at least the first season.
100%. It was fantastic. It was so good.
Somebody else that did the show refuses to watch it. I don't know why. I feel like it's a snob move, but I would still recommend watching the first season. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a soap opera, but it's still amazing. And I think that's a good spot to head into our first picks because, like I said, that show was instrumental in creating a music and cultural scene for that time period. So, Justin, what's your first pick?
All right, Mike. Great recap on the year 2003, and of course, lots of good music to come out in that year. And let's jump right into the picks. I'll get things started here with my first pick for 2003. This is a band that came out of Richmond, Virginia. This is their second album. I totally missed their first. I couldn't even tell you if I went back and listened to it, but I actually really liked the second album that came out in September of 2003 on Jade Tree Records. This album was actually, I didn't know it at the time, was produced by Brian McTernan, who we talked about in the last episode because he produced the Thrice album, The Illusion of Safety, and he went on to, he's playing in Be Well right now, so I've unknowingly had a lot of love for this dude. But the album is Exit English. The band is Stike Anywhere. And I don't know if it was just the time that it came out, but I really loved this album and the way it sounded. And there was so much like energy in it, like from front to back. It's not like the crispest recording, but it just like, I think captured the right blend of like punk and hardcore. And yeah, just like a huge amount of energy and like pace, and it just drives really well. So I'm a big fan of this album. I still go back and listen to it, especially like it's great like on the way to hockey, or if you're just kind of like wanting to get a little bit pumped up. I think it's a pretty good album for that. So yeah, I like it, and of course like heavily politically charged and all about the change we need, especially given the time that it came out, like we touched on with things happening around the world. So I think it had a lot to say, and I think most of what it said, still holds true to this day. So I like a good, heavily charged political punk rock album, and this one definitely delivers.
Yeah, I think one, I didn't know that was only their second album. I thought they'd been around for a while, so that's kind of interesting. I never got huge into Stike Anywhere. I know my brother was really into them, and I know you were. I do like them a lot. They kind of pick off where like Good Riddance was left off kind of for me at the time, and like with Rise Against coming out with their couple of albums and then in back to back these years too, like that sound really became prevalent, and Stike Anywhere is one of the better bands at doing that, I think. So great. It is a really good pick, and like I'll listen to it more now than I did back then. And I do agree with you, like the political message in it stands out for me too. One of those bands that didn't feel fake about doing it. Like, again, because of the political climate, because of the Iraq War and George Bush, it felt like there was a lot of bands like hopping on the political bandwagon, but Stike Anywhere didn't feel like a fake band doing it. They felt like this is them, like they were taking their cues from Propaganda or Good Riddance or whoever,
for sure. Yeah.
and carrying that torch. So
yeah, they definitely have something to say and aren't afraid to say it. They also have a long-standing pro dreadlock stance, because I think the dude still has dreadlocks, like when they're playing now 20 years later. So good for him.
I guess.
True to his roots. That's a hairpin.
Oh yeah, well done, Justin. Well done. What song did you end up going with?
So I went the song Blaze.
Oh, nice.
Which I think is the second track on the album.
So this is going to be hilarious because my first pick, the album is called Blaze.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that. That's like synergy, hey? If we would have planned that, I don't think we could have pulled it off. The band's Lagwagon. Like I said, the album is Blaze. When Blaze came out, I was basically done with the original Fat Bands. Like, I don't know if you felt that way, but like the stuff that was coming out, like I wasn't like, I'd still listen to it, but I wasn't super excited. Like if, let's say, Lagwagon put out an album or Good Riddance or Strung Out's last one was good, as we discussed, but in the last episode, but I didn't really care for it at the time. Like I like it now, actually. After the episode before I went back and listened, I'm like, this is a really good album. Just at the point in my life, I wasn't caring about those bands. So I didn't even buy Blaze. But when Hang came out, which I felt was like only a couple years ago, but now it was like quite a while ago.
I think it's almost 10 years old.
No way. Anyway, when Hang came out, I liked it so much. I went back to listen to the Lagwagon catalog, and this album is really good. It's really underrated, or at least in my mind. I don't know if it was rated well when it came out, but in my mind, it's underrated. It kind of sounds like a combo of the 3 previous Lagwagon albums. You can also hear some of the solo Joey Cape stuff slipping through in the melody and the lyrics. Lyrically, it touched on a lot of the patriotism in the Iraq War and how much Bush sucked. But then you also had Falling Apart, which is a song about dealing with aging, which is really relatable because I'm fucking old now. So a line like, "Oh shit, I think I broke my back. Where's the wheelchair?" is just really fitting when you can hurt yourself just like getting up in the morning and walking.
Slept wrong.
Yeah. Slept wrong. Guess I'll be out of commission for a few weeks. Like most of Lagwagon's albums, even the worst songs are pretty great Lagwagon tracks, if that makes sense. Like even their bad songs, they're tolerable, I would say. So I didn't really know which song to go with, but I went with E-Dagger because I really love that song. And I love the line, "I just want to get radical and not be a bummer." And I also want to be radical and not be a bummer, but I am neither. So I believe E-Dagger is a reference to Aaron from Fat Records too, which is a whole interesting gossipy thing that we don't need to touch on. But if you want to go down a rabbit hole, there's lots of gossip on the internet. It fits with that
It's
OC
the punk
theme.
rock equivalent of the OC.
Yeah. Anyway, great album, great song. Recommend checking it out. I don't know if you liked this album when it came out or if you were sort of in the same boat where you were starting to get sick of that stuff for a bit there.
Yeah, I think I was. And in the same way that I like the stuff that No Use put out around this time more than the stuff previous, but not at the time. Like it's when I go back and listen to it now. This is probably like a great nudge to go back and listen to this album and see how I like it now versus where I was so quick to dismiss it back then.
Yeah, I think doing this last few episodes, I found that a lot. Being like, I should have maybe given this more of a chance at the time. And maybe you just need time to not be sick of a sound or something too, right? Like,
yeah.
Even listening to like last episode, you had brought up like Thrice. I used to love Thrice, like No Tomorrow, and it took me a long time to go back and listen to him. And now when I listen to it, I'm like, oh, I really like this again. So you just need some time sometimes to break away.
Some great picks to get us started for 2003. My first pick is off the album Exit English by Stike Anywhere, and the song is Blaze.
Lagwagon, the song is E-Dagger off Blaze.
Come on, E. We got it covered. place, olden days, whatever. Just wanna get radical. Don't be a bummer. Look at that summer day. The sun is rising once again.
Can we have just one night without all this self-destruction? I just love my husband, can't live without him.
Come on, we're going easy. It's just a party. Time to get gnarly. Come on, try to go easy. My name is Randall. It's nice to meet you. We are always here to make you
Come on,
All right. Off to a good start for 2003. We'll keep things going. Much like my...
Would you tell me if it was a bad start? Are they all good
Well,
start?
I think now I'm going to have to. Like, I'm going to start calling out your picks more.
Yeah, do it.
With a little more scrutiny.
I love it. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm doing this with conviction. I don't even care what your pick is. I'm going to lay into it.
Awesome. Love it.
This, much like my first pick, this one has production level ties that connect back to the previous episode. So last episode, I talked about The Used, which of course had a connection with John Feldman from Goldfinger producing that album. He went on to produce this album, and it's the debut from St. Louis, Missouri's Story of the Year. This was recorded in early 2003 in California by John Feldman of Goldfinger fame, and came out in September as well on Maverick Records, which is a pretty big debut.
Maverick's Warner, right?
Is Maverick Madonna's label?
Oh, it is. Maverick is Madonna. You're right. 100%.
Yeah, that is Madonna's label.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no small.
So yeah, like that's
not small peanuts.
No, like I think that really speaks to how like mainstream the sound was, and I don't think Story of the Year, you know, they were sort of like right in the mix of punk rock, pop punk. They get sort of lumped into emo, but I don't really see how that fits.
I think it's the mall emo thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is, I mean, like we talked about, this is like the heydays of MySpace, or at least the early beginnings of it. And I don't think Story of the Year could dissociate themselves with that. Although I have heard that they actually don't like this recording and feel like they basically, John Feldman just put the used filter on them and made them sound like something they didn't really want to sound like.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but they also sold a ton of records from it and got to tour the world and play on MTV and stuff like that. One of the things that I thought was really cool about this band, besides like the sound, but their live show was absolutely ridiculous. I never did see them live, but seeing concert footage or footage from like, you know, MTV and stuff like that, they had like the craziest shit on their live shows, like the guitar spins. The guitar players would throw guitars across the stage to each other mid-song. They would do backflips off speakers and just like crazy rock show kind of stuff, which in an interesting way where so much punk rock shies away from kind of this like big stage production rock star lifestyle. I think they leaned into it in a pretty interesting way.
So sorry, like that's something I found because, and I'm going to use the term emo, even though it's not emo, because this crossed over into the mainstream. I feel like this is where some of these bands almost became like the Sunset Strip bands. Like they were now more about fashion and like
100%.
And like image and doing that shit on stage about they were more about being rock stars than any of the bands that we had listened to in the last 10 to 12 years, like any bands that we were interested in. And like, I'm not saying it was a bad thing. It's just an interesting thing. And this whole thing blew up in a way where that became part of that scene. And I see how that turned off a lot of people that were into punk rock or into emo and stuff. And then, but also how it turned on like a whole group of kids that never saw it. So you've got this like scene kids and stuff like that are like super into this thing. And it seems always like, it was always a weird thing for me. As someone who grew up liking Kiss and Motley Crue and stuff, it seemed like a throwback almost to that time. And I mean, myself, I was kind of into seeing bands do that just again because I thought it was so funny. But
yeah, I think like Sum 41 is like a great example of this, and they never shied away from saying like, well, it's literally in their lyrics, like Maiden and Priest were the
yeah,
gods that we praised or whatever, and like they grew up listening to those bands and wanted to be those bands, and I think Story of the Year is probably, I feel like, is probably along some of those lines. But it is interesting where you have like Fat Mike really gearing up for like Rock Against Bush and like so much political stuff coming out. Like this is the same year that Against Me sort of put out their second album and really started to pick up traction. And you have so many like Rise Against gets going. So there's this big like political push in punk rock mixed with like this really like it's nothing but mainstream rock music that happens to be really closely closely connected to punk rock as well. So it is interesting. And like, I mean, I couldn't say that like Story of the Year aren't certainly on that like almost cheesy side of things where like, yeah, there's image and there's production and there's like, that's like a rehearsal that they would have for a live show, which is kind of hilarious in its own way. But I thought they did it quite well. And I still like this album quite a bit.
This band reminds me of you for some reason. Like I can't say I've really listened to them that much since this year, but for some reason when I think of Story of the Year I think of you. I'm not sure why, but
that's because it was all those backflips I used to do.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, you were like basically lifting the kit up, the drum kit, doing 360s in a cage, letting your drumsticks on fire. That's you. Splits in doing the splits in leather pants, totally your sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
letting my DLR out.
What song did you end up picking off this album?
I went with And the Hero Will Drown, the lead track. Start off track on this one. Oh, they also got huge because it wasn't this song, it was one of the other songs. Was on one of the EA games.
Oh yeah. That's another thing that like I think being on these EA games, like there was a lot of bands in the punk rock and the circles that ended up a lot of these like hockey and football and
I think these guys were on like on one of the Madden games or something like that.
Yeah,
like got like a huge amount of like play from that, which is also something that didn't really exist before, like video game soundtracks.
Yeah, for sure. Like that became huge. I think it's still huge to be on those things. Like, I mean, we had the Tony Hawk soundtrack before, but this is a whole other level. There's people that devote their lives to playing these video games. Like this is their personality. So hearing those songs probably that becomes part of their soundtracks too, right? So I might have to check that out because I just wouldn't have given them the time of day. And my next pick's a little bit different than them, but also kind of a sign of the times and things to come. I'm assuming anyone listening to the podcast will know a little bit about this band, even if not for their music, for the tragic circumstances of the band. The band is the Exploding Hearts. The album is Guitar Romantic. The Exploding Hearts were a revival power pop garage and 77-ish punk band from the Pacific Northwest. They were a band posed for a big breakout. Like I think they're one of those bands that probably would have got signed to a major label. It seemed like everyone was talking about them in music circles, in all sorts of different ones too, not just like punk rock circles. They were pitchfork darlings. Like it was maybe the right sound for the right time. There were hints of the Clash, the Buzzcocks, and the Jam. And I think some of the reason they got so hyped is that there was kind of this rejection of the glossy mall punk emo sound. So like these bands are trying to go back towards what the original influences were. So they like kind of stripped down and got more garagey and less produced, more grimy, I guess. And despite this all, the Exploding Hearts still had this like great pop sensibility about their songs. And you can see the influences of, let's say, like the Clash, where the Clash incorporated pop into this punk rock sound. When this came out, the store I was working at, this album would fly off the shelves. But unfortunately, while touring the album that summer, the band was involved in a horrible traffic accident and 3 of the members died. 2, I believe, survived, and a merch person or a manager. And the person driving was one of the members of the band, and they had fallen asleep, unfortunately, on the road. And it was pretty horrific.
That's awful.
As morbid as it sounds, it kind of only added to the hype on the release. So it just like that, just the whole legend of this album kind of grew out of that. However, if you're like thinking it's only because of that, which some people I think did. It's not true. The album is legit. The hype is legit. It's a power pop punk masterpiece. I think picking a song off this was so difficult because I loved them all. It opens with Modern Kicks, which really kickstarts the heart. There's a band album called Sleeping Aids and Razor Blades, which is a go-to song for me on mixtapes when I make them for people or playlists. But I eventually went with the song Throwaway Style, which is one of the songs I always used to play when I DJ. Great band, great album. I believe when I was doing some research, it said it's like ranked the 60th best album of the decade. I don't know how many albums of the decade there are, but 60 seems like a pretty good place for like a bunch of 20-year-olds from the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, also sounds like there's 59 better ones. So just saying. Statistically.
I teed that up for you, didn't I?
Told you I'm going to rip into it. Doesn't matter what it is. Thanks for bringing the 60th best to the episode.
Way to pick on the dead, Justin. No mercy with you, eh?
That's not...
I'm not editing that out.
That's fine.
You are who you are, hey? Yeah, that's all I really have to say about Exploding Hearts. I imagine they're not a band that you would overly love, because I know that 77 sort of punk's not your jam sometimes. But
I actually have never heard of them, so this is all like totally new to me.
Oh, crazy! I'm sure you've heard me because you used to
check out
DJ.
their MySpace page, I guess.
You used to DJ with me sometimes, so you probably have heard this song and just didn't know what it was.
Yeah, like I wonder if it's one of those things where I know the songs, but couldn't link them back to who it was.
Like I said, it's a great album.
Yeah. And maybe one of those ones that holds up even better with time. So picks number 2 for the year 2003. The artist is Story of the Year. The album is Page Avenue, and the song is And the Hero Will Drown.
Exploding Hearts. The song is Throwaway Style. The album is Guitar Romantic.
Her wings of innocence through every word we say.
right, we're getting to the halfway point here, rolling on to the third picks of the year 2003. This one may be a little contentious because it's not a full-length album, but it's an EP. I don't know how that sits with the purity of the episodes, but
I don't give a fuck.
it came out in 2003, so it's going on the episode.
Yeah.
This one kind of, I sort of forgot about it for a little while, and maybe this is where that bit of nostalgia comes back in. And I actually went back and listened to this one because the then lead singer is sort of popping up more and more with his new band, which is, I guess they're not that new, but newer, which is LS Dunes. But way back in 2003, he was a part of a band that is called either Saosin or Saosin, and I have no idea which one it is.
I honestly have no clue either. I always
And I
assumed
actually
Saosin.
looked it up, and there people say both. So,
Well, there we
if
go.
people want to like and subscribe and put a post in the comments as to how they say it, that would be great. 2003 was Saosin's debut EP, so it's only, I think, 5 songs. That came out on Death Do Us Part Records. They put out their full length, I think, in 2005, and broke up probably not... Oh, sorry, they switched vocalists and then probably went through a few different iterations after that. But I really like this album when it came out. It's a little bit different than some of the other, like, sort of post-hardcore screamo-ish stuff in the sense that it was like sort of really technical and like had these like really complex breakdowns, and like their drummer, and I don't know who the drummer is or what he did sort of post-band or if he stuck with them for a while, but they have just like these crazy breakdowns and like really cool, like just pretty solid chops for this band and the way they kind of play together. Not quite to the extent of like Dillinger Escape Plan or even Protest the Hero, but like also a little bit more approachable than some of those bands. So like that was sort of the first thing that stuck out with me in hearing them, is like how good they are musically. And I think from a vocal standpoint, Anthony Green was the singer of the band at the time, probably like a bit of a divisive singer. I think he's got a very unique voice. I quite like it, but I tend to like bands with unique vocalists, and he's certainly one of them. I could also see how maybe people wouldn't take it as much, but I do, so that's why it's on the list.
And maybe you don't know this, and I don't really know this. I know the name Anthony Green. Is he also in Circa Survive? Is that a band that he's in?
He is, yeah, that's exactly
Okay.
it. So after, I think, I don't know if he left or got kicked out. Either way, after Saosin, he went on to Circa Survive, and then a couple other bands, and most recently in LS Dunes.
I really like Alice Dunes a lot. I don't think I've ever heard Saosin or Saos, whatever the band name is. Sorry, and I've never heard Circa Survive. I've always heard the name Anthony Green, but I just don't think I've ever really listened to either of these bands. So I'm excited to check this out. Definitely something that I missed at the time, or if I didn't, I don't recall. So cool. It's always good to hear something like completely random for me. Good pick, Justin. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I went with the song 7 Years, which is, I guess, maybe keeping with the subtle theme of this one, which is pick the first release or first song on each album, and that's what this one is. But it's a good, little 5-song EP.
Intro tracks are usually pretty stellar, so it's usually a safe bet too. There's not too many bands that want to start their album with a shitty song.
Yeah, we
It's not a
let
good
them warm up
strategy.
a little bit first, and then give them the good stuff.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to checking this one out, Justin. Awesome. Like I said, I do really like Alice Dunes. My next pick is not in that same vein. It's a band that's put out a lot of albums. This is the 6th album of theirs, and it's maybe the last great Rancid album. Not to say that some of the releases aren't good, but this is the last front to back album for me. And when this came out, I was a little skeptical for a number of reasons. The first being that I really disliked the previous Rancid album. I know there are some people that love that album, but I just don't like it. I've tried to go back, and I just don't like that album.
That was the self-titled one?
Yeah, the black one. With
Yeah.
I don't think there's maybe Radio Havana is on that album or something like that. There's a song on there there's one song I like on that whole album, and it's not my jam. The second being, and maybe someone else will correct me on this one, is that this was on a major, or was distributed by a major. I believe Time Warner was distributing it at the time, so it kind of had me skeptical, and especially after the Transplants, because the Transplants blew up so much. and was like, again, in mainstream. I was half expecting to hear a shampoo advertisement on the album when I heard this. All that aside, I was pleasantly surprised at how awesome the album is. I can see why some people don't like this one, and they might think it's a little too poppy for some Rancid fans, especially after the return to kind of like a gritty punk rock hardcore sound before. And then this one seems like they were like, nah, we're back to like putting out stuff like And Out Come the Wolves and Life Won't Wait. So I can see why there's a little bit of hesitation on some people, but I really like it. Most of the album on the surface seems to deal with the fallout of Tim and Brody's breakup, which is a weird thing because some of the songs are really upbeat and they're still about breakups, I guess, and like getting through it. And after listening to this morning as a refresher, I think I might like it more now than I even liked back then. Like it's a really good album. You can hear a lot of the production stuff that I liked off the Life Won't Wait album here, which maybe I didn't pick up on originally, but because I had listened to Life Won't Wait for an earlier episode, it still was fresh in my mind, and there's a lot of similarities there. There's some interesting musical takes, but there's a lot of stuff that was great off And Out Come the Wolves on here as well. Like, I don't know if you could attest to that as well, or maybe you don't even like some. Like I said, it seems like one of those albums that people like or don't really care for.
I do like this one, I think, for a number of the reasons you touched on. Like it feels like a little bit more of a return to form, but like still, I don't know, like still like an evolution of their sound. Like they're trying a few new things. I think Red Hot Moon's like it's
a great song.
Like a great song.
Minus that's one Transplants guys at the very end of it, which is kind of a bummer, but
yeah, but I also don't hate it. But I also like the Transplants maybe more than I should, but.
No, I like the Transplants, or at least the first Transplants album. I just, when I listened to Red Hot Moon today, I was like, the guy kind of ruins that song a little bit, but it's still really
maybe
good.
It sort of probably dates it a little bit. Tropical London, I think that's on this album too, isn't it?
I believe so, yeah. And like Arrested in Shanghai and Ghost Town, or Ghost Band.
Yeah.
There's lots of really
really
good tracks on here. Like I said, I like it a lot, and I don't think there's been an album since this one where they've been able to put out like front to back a great album. There's good tracks off all the albums. Like I know some people like rag on them, but I feel like almost every Rancid album after has had like a scattering of really good tracks that you could probably put onto one album. But this is the last great one for me. The obvious song to pick for me was Fall Back Down because it's like a killer single, but I figured I'd go off the board a little and go with Start Now, which almost feels like it could have been off And Out Come the Wolves. That's the one.
Awesome. Good pick, and way to get back into kind of more I think on brand for the podcast and back to the core of punk rock. Not that there's anything wrong with expanding out and seeing where all the different arms and tentacles go, but nice to get one back in the core.
See, I see like when we are revisiting like old like a year, we're revisiting a year, and like I think we've touched on this, or I've touched on this a lot in the last couple of episodes. Like, if you grew up with the punk bands before, like it was getting kind of stale. So we were exploring all this other stuff. So it only makes sense that you would be liking bands that were very different than we were before. So
yeah, interestingly enough, and I tried not to pick bands that I picked before, and one of those was NoFX, and they put out War on Errorism in 2003. And I wanted to pick it for this because it's a good album, and I think it's actually one of the better NoFX albums, or at least one that marks sort of that switch from like we're not just going to talk about like the silly, but really sort of pushing heavily into the political world and actually trying to say a little bit more with songs like Franco and American and
The Idiots Are Taking Over.
Idiots Are Taking Over, which is a great song too. Quite fitting for this time of.
Much like Lagwagon, well. I don't think I cared for this album when it first came out. I felt like it was like kind of like, it's a NoFX album. I do find myself going back to this album a lot over the time, and like I really like this album. That NoFX album. So, time has a way of making things more interesting again, or like taking a space and coming back and looking at that kind of stuff. And again, this explains why we maybe are picking bands like Coheed or Thrice or like your pick on this one, like a little bit off the beaten path of the stuff we'd been listening to for the past 10 years. Mm-hmm. But you just kind of get bored with stuff and look for new sounds, and then this stuff fizzles out It doesn't take long. The funny thing I found about this sort of sound is that it sort of fizzled out quicker for me anyways. Like it got homogenized very quickly. So
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to lead us into this tunes?
Absolutely, with a third picks for 2003 off the EP translating the name. The band is Saosin or Saosin. Jury is still out on that one. And the song is 7 Years.
Rancid, the album's Indestructible, and the song is Start Right Now.
Taking on 7 years, that Holy Ghost has left the room. Test my arms, kick like crazy. I've been trying way too long. Only pushed away out to find you. Now I'm sorry, I'm not sure. Getting off my chest, the story ends. I would fly away with you. How enemies I see you clear. I would fly away with you. How enemies I see you clear. Like the status quo, run without you. Something that I could never do. I was right. Stand for the eyes and 17 to me. 17 to still. 7 years, you assured me I'd be fine if I could fly. Only pushed the way out to fight you. Now I'm sorry, I'm not sure. Getting off my chest, the story ends. I would fly away with you. How enemies I see you clear. I would fly away with you. How enemies I see you clear. Like the status quo, run without you. Something that I could never do. I was right. Stop feeling cold and 17 to
Another lesson has been learned amidst these modern times. Strangers in the midst of here, now there's war all the time. Systematically gonna destroy, commit another atrocity. Aggressors are in their places, man-made catastrophe. I'm not looking for a fight now, and I don't care who's wrong or right now. So release the dove into fly now, so we can start right now, we can start right now. A small key gonna open the door, across our border to a new land. And in the new land the sandstorm roars, on the spell and the ghost of a man. Back of many warriors they stay, the press fall upon dead ears. Machiavelli owns a machine gun now, and a seal in the mask and a puppeteer. I'm not looking for a fight now, and I don't care who's wrong or right now. So release the door into fly now, so we can start right now, we can start right now.
in a mess, now you all got blood all over the wall. And clarity turns to dark, blindfolded prisoners of war. And solidarity on a razor's edge. Boy, what? You're a big puncher now, right? Yeah. Huh. Nah, I don't fucking think so. I'm not looking for a fight now, and I don't care who's on the right now. So release the blood and to fight now. So we can start right now. We can start right now. We can start right now. So we can start right now. So we can start right now. Start right now. Start right now. Start right now. Say it. Right now. Right now. I don't like it now. Right now. Right now. So release right now. Right now. Right now. Start right now. Start right now. So we can start right now. Start right now. Start right now. Start right now. So we can start right now. Start right now. Start right now. Start right now. So we can start.
All right, on to the fourth picks for 2003. This band has actually been sort of interesting because I've seen them a ton on my Instagram feed, and I think particularly coming out of the When We Were Young festival in Vegas the last few weeks. And so, because I think they played there a whole bunch, and then just I've seen so many like weird random bar shows and stuff that they're doing. So obviously they're out and touring a whole bunch, and I think they may have just put out a new album not that long ago. They hail from Burlington, Ontario, so I'm getting my Canadian content in there, which is also where Grade is from, and I think
Jersey.
Yeah, Jersey. That's right. Yeah, Jersey's from there, but they're
But I think
connected to Grade.
Yeah,
right?
they're connected.
Same with
yeah.
like the Black Dahlia Murder, which is the lead singer from Grade. Plays guitar
Really?
in that band, I think. Yeah, he plays guitar. He doesn't sing. He just plays guitar in it.
I didn't know that.
I think so.
You're teaching me all sorts of things today.
It was all on my MySpace page when it happened. So, anyways, the band.
I just
is,
couldn't stop looking at you and doing splits in the leather pants on your MySpace page. So I never paid attention to the other stuff.
That's on my OnlyFans now.
It's a good way to raise money.
Put my kids through college. The band is Silverstein. The album is When Broken Is Easily Fixed, and this is the debut album from Silverstein, who their second album that they put out 2-3 years after this is quite good, probably like one of the fan favorites, and I sort of could flip-flop between the two as to which one I like the most. This one came out on Victory Records, which again, like that's from a punk rock level, like a pretty good album or pretty good label to debut on. This is actually like when I think about nostalgia and are you like, it is so off the time. And this one is probably like more nostalgia than anything else, but it really is like sort of quintessential emo hardcore, like lots of stargazy guitar riffs mixed with like screamy breakdowns and like anthemic vocals and a lot of switching between like more rough screamy stuff and like melodic vocals. Pretty talented musicians, like they don't shy away from like showing that they can work their way through a guitar or drum set pretty easily, and like very personal lyrics of like struggling with life and everything that's going around with breakups or just kind of what to do with what to do next and where to go. So they're definitely kind of singing from the heart, and it's interesting seeing a band like this still playing now, like 20 years later. It seems weird when you're like, we have so much like angst and emotion when you're I'm assuming they would have been like in their late teens, early 20s when this album came out, like how much that still translates now. But I don't know, all the live footage I have seen of him looks pretty cool. I think I actually, going back to my previous pick, saw them doing one of their songs with Anthony Green from LS Dunes at a show. So it's all coming full circle here. Yeah, I don't know. It's not an album that I can say I listen to all the time, but it is, if I go back and listen to Silverstein, this is the one that kind of grabs me.
When this came out, I really liked this album. There's a couple of tracks on here that I'll still listen to on a regular basis too. I wouldn't switch it off. Interesting enough, I feel like it's crazy how they kind of broke through. Like I feel like they're much bigger than I would have ever imagined. Like almost in the same way that Alexis on Fire is. Like they just Like they broke into a mainstream in a way that I just wouldn't expect. They did kind of what I thought Grade might do. They did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's actually a really good point, and I think you're spot on with the Alexis on Fire comment too, because I feel like they were big, but Canadian big. But in fact, they were. I think both those bands were far bigger in the U.S. than we ever sort of realized.
I think I agree. I would say both are huge.
Yeah.
Like I only know this Silverstein album and the one where they do all the covers because they cover Chicks Dig It, which is always cool. But I feel like I still see them putting out albums all the time, and I think they are quite big, which is and survived, I guess, the oversaturation of this genre. I think, which is also interesting.
Yeah, I think this album I think is really well regarded as being like, sort of one of those quintessential early 2000s or mid 2000s emo hardcore MySpace.
Very MySpace. Very MySpace. Sorry, what song did you end up going with?
I was going to go with Giving Up, but decided to go with the much heavier Bleeds No More, just because it starts out with the most it's so cheesy at this point, but I still laugh.
I mean,
just the screamy intro.
It's great.
My heart bleeds no more. What a over the top dramatic.
But that was of the time, right? That's what these bands were doing, right? Like it's taking. I mean, that's the point of the podcast or this season is to go back and look at this kind of stuff, like stuff you might not generally go back to and see it, and it resonated when you were 20 years old that someone could scream that, right? It doesn't resonate as much now, and now you're just like, oof. That's always. I mean, we've discussed this with both Nate and you. It's it must be weird being in a band and singing that stuff when you're in your late 30s or something. And just okay, well, I wrote this when I was thought my 6-month girlfriend was breaking up with me was the biggest thing in the world. There's a lot more shit going on now, but I guess I'll sing it.
Yeah.
My next band kind of blends in with this pretty well, if not only just because they sort of have a Grade sound. I'm going with some Calcon here, and one of my all-time favorite Calgary bands. The band is Joule, and this is sort of the second coming of Joule when they reformed and started playing again. And this time around, they added Steve from 5 Spot in Life After High School on guitar and sometimes keys. The album is It's Always a Pleasure If Always Means Never. Justin and me put this out, so this is also kind of a shout out to us putting out albums from our friends. But I really do love this band. Great Calcon regardless of that. The band took what was great about their original version and incorporated some of the sounds of the time, taking influence from some of the more now becoming popular hardcore and screamo bands production-wise. So I don't know, they would probably be mad if I said they did this, but they kind of saw the way bands at the drive-in and Refused, and even some of these bands like Under Oath. Well, not Under Oath because they wouldn't have listened to Under Oath, but sort of this sort of thing. I think they saw that and were like, "Hey, we're already halfway there. We've been doing this for forever. We can do it just as well." And they incorporated some of that stuff, but they didn't lose what made them so great before. It was recorded by Cam Hayden and released as an EP. Although the original plan was to release a full length so there are a bunch of unreleased tracks from that session floating around. Maybe one day I'll get motivated and put them online. One of them was supposed to be on a compilation we were going to put out, which we never put out. It's still one of my favorite bands, and I know I brought this up, and their original Joule tape is an all-time favorite release of mine, so I was super stoked that we got to put this album out. I wasn't sure if they would ever let us put something out, so it's cool that they did, and because I always felt like Joule thought they were cooler than anything. That was part of the mystique of Joule, right? That they thought they were cooler than everybody. So I was always shocked.
I think they thought they were cooler than us, which is actually a pretty low bar to.
Yeah, it was a low bar, but it was cool that they still are pretty cool, and they bring up how good we were to them and stuff, and which is nice to hear when your friends say that we treated them well and stuff like that. The album opens up with ESB, which contains maybe one of the best lines in a song I've ever heard. 3-time world champion, baby, and I've got the sweater to prove it. It comes from a story where the singer Dev almost got hit in the parking lot by a guy, and the guy got out of his truck and yelled at him and said, "I'm a 3-time world champ, baby, and I've got the sweater to prove it." And then he pumped up his chest. I love that line so much that I put it on a counterfeit Joule shirt that I made last year. So that harpens back to the merch question, because I like to make merch from random bands that no one knows. Like right now, I'm wearing one of Justin's first
I
band
noticed that.
t-shirts. So I did make a Joule shirt. It's rad. If you want one, I'll sell it to you. Don't tell the band though, because they'll probably ask for some sort of royalty for it. Last time I did something, I had to give them buy them a hammock. This album is up on streaming services, and the original tape is actually being remastered. Not this album, but their original tape that I was talking about is actually being remastered, and there is plan to release it on vinyl and online, thanks to Ben and Maya of Canadian Wasteland Archives, who have been bugging the band to do it. They got off their ass and have remastered it, and it should come out at some point. But in Joule fashion, they're not organized to get anything done in any sort of relevant time, so it'll probably be like a year away or something. Who knows? They probably want to tinker with it too much. Most of the members in the band went on to other cool bands. John is currently in a band called Closers, which just put out an album this year, which is fantastic. I highly recommend checking it out. He was also in Sea of Is and War Baby. Dev was in a band called Falcon. Steve went on to Beja Flor, Savick, and Night Twin. And is the Steve new band, that's still Night Twin, or is he Savick again, or is he just Steve? Do you know?
I think he's going for a Prince thing. It's just a symbol now.
Probably. Maddie's drums for a ton of projects, and I think he's in a cover band that does like high-end cover things now. Mike just snowboards and bikes in Vancouver. That's his thing. I don't think he plays music anymore. Anyway, I love to gush about Calgary bands, so I've probably gone on too long, but please check Joule out. I was kind of tempted to pick one of the unreleased tracks, but because of the 3-time world champion story, I had to go with ESB.
But it is a great story and a great line, and even the album title for this one always it makes me smile. And it's one of those things where it's like just ingrained in my brain. So anytime someone says like at the end of a whatever, like you see them and they're like, it's great to see you, it's always a pleasure. In my head, I will say, if always means never. And I've said it out loud a few times to people, and they just like give me the weirdest look. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, sorry. Like it's probably not great in a workplace setting, but it's such a great line. Always a pleasure if always means never.
And it does harpen to like you were saying about the bleeding heart thing. Like it sounds like that, but it's also, if you knew Joule, it also sounds like something they would say to you.
That's basically like they could have that tattooed on them. Yeah,
those guys are awesome because they've never really changed. Like I was out with Pollock on the other day here. He was in town, and he after lunch, he's like, "Can we go to the costume store?" I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, that was a weird thing to do. So we went to the costume store, and he's like, "I'm going to a party tonight," and he bought like 3 masks, and he's like, "Just gonna wear these to the party tonight." Who's the party for? He's like, a guy's 50th birthday party. Like,
is it even a costume party? He's just wearing costumes to a party.
He's just wearing masks to a party.
Amazing.
And I think it was like a work buddy or something. Like, Joule kids never changed. Sorry, again, I've probably talked about this too much, but I love that.
That's great.
band.
I'm always happy to listen and love that band a lot, especially this recording. With our 4th picks for the year 2003, the band is Silverstein. The album is When Broken is Easily Fixed, and the song is Bleeds No More.
Joule, off the album It's Always a Pleasure If Always Means Never, and the song is ESB. 3-time world champion, baby. Got the sweater to prove it.
My heart bleeds no more. No, it's been taken down. You're telling me I'll send for someone else, but I've broken both my life falling for you. Dreaming on the ground, powerless I stand, tarnished blade cutting through, pushed into my vein, but still stains my hands, sharpening my sense of pain outside. My heart bleeds no more. No, it's been taken down. You're telling me I'll stand for someone else, but I've broken both my life falling for you. Dreaming on the ground,
enough time. Can I fake it? Not gonna die. Can I make it? Enough time.
Welcome back, and I hope you liked those songs, and I hope I wasn't overselling that CalCon for you guys, but I enjoyed it, and I think Justin did too. Speaking of enjoying things, I just wanted to say thank you to you all. So, because it's the last episode of the year, an extra special thanks to you for listening to our podcasts. I know there's a zillion podcasts out there these days, and the fact that anybody wants us to hear, or the fact that anybody wants to hear us talking is flattering, and we really appreciate it a bunch. Justin, thank you so much for this year and saving the podcast for me.
Mike, it's always a pleasure. If always means never.
It's perfect. Perfect, Justin. I mean, I like to pretend that people would want to listen to me, but I'm not that naive. It is great to do this with you, and you really helped me out by filling in for Nate and letting me continue doing this. So I really appreciate it, taking your time. I know you're a really busy guy, so it's been a lot of fun hanging out with you, and it's cool that we get to talk a little bit more than, I know we talk a lot because we're close friends and stuff, but this also forces us to do one more thing together, so it's nice. Thank you to the WhatsApp group for everything. You guys are great. Really enjoy all the conversations. It seems like there's some funny stuff that when the new people join, there's always some funny stuff. Like we talked about Presidents of the United States of America. Is that the band? Peaches band?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't say I've had a conversation about that band in 20 years, so it was kind of fun. That's the kind of stuff we talk about in there. Also, we rank strung out albums on a regular basis. If you like spreadsheets and like strung out and having a strong opinion about it and willing to defend it like you're in the court of law, the High Fives WhatsApp chat's the place for you. If you want to join, get in touch with us. And on that note, you can get in touch with us via our Instagram, which is at High Fives Podcast, which I do have to look up every time I do this prep thing, but I double checked and it is at High Fives Podcast. You can send us lists for episodes that way. We post them on there, as well as the what we were listening to portion of the episode. I try to link up the band's Spotify or Bandcamp pages that way too, so you can check them out. Or if Instagram's not your jam, you can email us. Our email address is very stupid. It is superhigh5podcast@gmail.com. For some reason, I couldn't get High Five Podcast when we did that, so this is a panic move, and I'm stuck with it. Much like hotguy77@hotmail, which is Justin's email. If you like our podcast,
That's my email.
Yeah, I know. You think I was lying? If you like our podcast, you can leave a review or a comment. But my personal favorite thing is if you just tell a friend to listen. A little note here. As usual, I'll be working on the year-end episode. So before I start, if you have any suggestions on what you'd like to see on that year-end episode, let me know. Maybe you want a little bit less of my voice. Maybe you want me to try to get some guests. Maybe you don't want it. Maybe you want just a mixtape. Let me know. I'm willing to adapt, or at least pretend I'm going to adapt. I'm assuming Justin doesn't want to talk about 400 albums that he liked from whatever the year this is.
I don't know if I can talk about 4 albums. So,
and lastly, this is just me. I don't want to get on my soapbox too much here, but I felt like I need to say just a little blurb about the political climate right now. So, and for one, I'm a middle-aged white guy, so I'm not going to pretend that I have the same experience as so many marginalized people. But the American election was pretty depressing and disheartening, and I just wanted to say, like, we understand and we feel it here, and we live in a place like Alberta that has a provincial government that's in line with many of those same beliefs. So we do get the fear and doom, and we did have some conversation in the WhatsApp chat with some of the American people in there, and how upset they were and scared and nervous. So just wanted to say that if you want some support, we're here, even if on a friend basis. It's going to be some weird times. An old friend of mine, shout out to Rob from Ottawa, aka Rob from Poser, who posted this little quote from Henry Rollins, which I thought, despite a guy who's notoriously no fun, according to KJ's mom, had a really good point to make about things like this election. So I just wanted to read the quote before we get into our last picks. And the quote is, "This is not a time to be dismayed. This is punk rock time. This is what Joe Strummer trained you for. It's now time to go. You're a good person. That means more now than ever. Because as a voter, you throw your penny and you throw it in the sea, and that's all a vote really is. It's like nothing. You don't even hear it fall. But you can be thunderous in your own life, and being cool to 8 people around you, well, that rubs off. Goodness is viral." And I thought that really struck a chord with everything, because despite all the darkness and everything, at the root of it, if you're just a good person and you're good to the people around you and there to support them, that goes a long way, even when people are trying to push you down. So if you're scared out there, try to take some solace in that. And that's my little spiel, and I'm sorry if you didn't want to hear it, but that's just how I felt. And I don't have a huge platform, but I just felt I wanted to say that. So on that note, let's get to our last songs, unless Justin has anything he'd like to say. Maybe he wants to say thank you to somebody that is special. I don't know.
No, Mike, I was just a little confused because earlier this week you texted me, finally the good guys won.
I was talking about the Flames.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. That's right. Yeah, because I forgot they had a game that night. That must have been what you meant.
Yeah, that's it. I swear.
Yeah. I know you were wearing your red hat. I guess it was a Flames hat.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Well done.
All right.
Well done, sir.
On that note, let's get into the last picks for the year 2003, and we can leave this year in the dust. My fifth pick for the year is also the 5th studio album from this band, a follow-up to their 2000 album, Borders and Boundaries. The band is Gainesville, Florida's very own Less Than Jake, which is also hilarious because earlier we were talking about, like, how can you be sort of like in your mid-40s and like talking about, like, you know, teenage heartbreak, but these guys have built an entire career on that very thing, and I think they're a handful of years older than us. And
I think they're way older than us.
It just, everything is all about like how you feel between the ages of 14 and maybe 22. But they do it well, and they sort of certainly have tapped into like teenage emotions very well, and tell the story of how it feels. Like, from listening to this band, I feel like if I was from Gainesville, all I would want to do is get the fuck out of there because it sounds depressing as hell.
Well, you've been to Gainesville. Was it as depressing as it looked? As it sounds?
Well, I was there for Fast, so that was pretty different, I guess. I could see how, because that's also where like the huge university is. So if that wasn't your scene and you weren't, on like there for like
football,
college or academics or athletics, and you had to basically like put up with, probably dealing with, and whether it was serving these people in the bar or running into them in the parking lot or whatever the situations were, you'd probably want to get the hell out of there too. So yeah, I don't think I don't know if Less Than Jake's doing a whole lot of tourism in Gainesville kind of stuff, or maybe they are, because they also, Gainesville does have a few things going for it, like Fast
and alligators.
And alligators. This album, I think, sort of gets a bit of like classic Less Than Jake fans a little bit upset because it was so produced and polished, and I think that's because they tapped Rob Cavallo for it, who he was the producer for like a ton of stuff. Probably most notably Green Day. Like he produced like Dookie and Nimrod and a couple of them. He might have done American Idiot. He produced The Black Parade. He produced a fucking countless other things. Like the guy's like a multi-time Grammy winner. So certainly, I think contributed to that more polished sound that that the album has. I was all for it. Of course, I like, you know, anytime a band can sort of do their best work in a studio. And I like this album too, because I think it just, I don't want to say that it sounded a little bit more, I think it actually, no, I will say it. It sounds more like a little bit more matured and a little bit less about like songs about like someone having a cold or what Johnny Quest thinks about them. And even though it still relies heavily on like what it means to be a young person figuring out their place in the world, and how, you know, there's definitely stresses when you feel like you don't have a direction, where you feel like you don't fit in, where you feel like you're constantly fucking up or screwing up or not sure what to do next, and you're just generally feeling lost. I think they approach that in a more mature manner that actually still holds up, I think, today, and probably has some like pretty relatable messages for anyone that's just sort of feeling like they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. And that's probably something that that I can certainly like appreciate in the band. I think there's some honesty in that, even if it's looking back probably through their life.
I'm old. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
I relate still.
I feel like every time I've got things figured out, something else happens, and you're like sort of thrown right back into those feelings of your youth. So I chose off this album the very aptly titled "The Science of Selling Yourself Short."
I really like this album too. That's interesting about the production thing, because the production is different on this album, and I always thought it felt more poppy than the other stuff. Less, I don't know. It's still very like pop punk, and there's still like punk, ska punk on it, but it's just like crisper sounding and less like Hello Rocky is very like that way too. But this is different. I don't know how to explain it. It's different. I always thought it was a really good album. Listened to it not long ago and was pleasantly surprised that it held up. No sort of nostalgia. Like, I agree. I think Less Than Jake is shockingly good at tapping into that emotion of feeling like I'm not worth, or I fucked up and I'm like, I screw up, but I don't know what I'm doing. And as you get older, I think it's always weird. I don't know if you feel this way, but I always felt like older people had things figured out. Like, I am. Like, now I feel like everyone just is winging it, or at least I'm winging it. I don't know if you're winging it, but I'm winging it and getting through. And Less Than Jake is really tapped into that. And what may sound silly is still kind of like fitting when you hear their songs. Good pick, Justin. I do enjoy this album quite a bit. And I love that you always get into the production thing, because that's not something I tend to look at in an album, like who made it and why. And then when you bring up the other stuff, it totally makes sense that like, oh yeah, I know this is crisper and this sort of sound because of this guy doing that. So thanks for always looking into the production things.
Yeah, I think it's for me, it's been an interesting way to look back on albums, and I think it sort of not to the same extent of the people writing, performing songs, but the way an album comes together and the way that it sounds the way it does, or carries a certain energy or rawness or like high production value or whatever the sort of attributes of that album are. It sort of just helps shine a bit of a light on as to why an album sounds the way it does.
Great pick, sir. Great pick. My next pick is an album that I hummed and hawed about putting on here because it's not necessarily on brand. I figured it was either going to be this album or Transatlanticism, and I was worried about putting either of them on here, but I thought about it and I listened to both albums in the day, and I thought about how much I listened to both of these albums. The band is the Postal Service. The album is Give Up. The first time I heard the Postal Service was the cover of Phil Collins' Against All Odds, and I had known the EP had been out, but it didn't really interest me. Then I heard that song and everything changed. Postal Service is Ben from Death Cab, Jimmy from Dental, and then guest appearances from Jenny Lewis, Jen Wood, and Chris Walla. The name The Postal Service came about due to the process of putting the album together. The pair would send demos on burned CDRs through the mail adding elements until the songs were complete. The LP sounds contrast manipulated. I can't speak. Manipulated samples and keyboards with live guitar and drums, and a sound that some have described as indie electronica. Gibbard wrote the lyrics and provided the vocals and contributed additional instrumentation. It's kind of an interesting thing to think about how revolutionary this idea seemed at the time. Like when you hear about it and you're like, oh, like I remember when this happened, people would be like, that's amazing. These guys they're not in the same town and they're working on an album together and just sending like little bits to each other. And that's something that's so easily done right now. Like you could start a band with like someone in Australia or
like how everything is
Argentina, and you can
now.
just be like, I worked on my guitar line. Here you go. They were doing it way before, like sending a CDR. Can you imagine like how long it would take? You'd have to wait a whole week to even like start working on something like without hearing it and then get it back. It's just interesting. The concept worked. It's like front to back an amazing album, and one I go to all the time. Like I never get sick of this album. I don't know if this is your jam, but like I just love this album. And when we saw them at Riot Fest last year, it was almost a religious experience. I didn't think this would translate live. Like I honestly thought it would be really boring and sleepy after being outside all day and then having to sit through Pennywise's terrible set. I thought I was going to fall asleep when we saw him, but it was like fucking phenomenal. I'd rank it up there with one of the best shows I've ever seen. Everything felt magical, just like the album. I don't know about you. Like I couldn't, like I was so blown away at how great it sounded and how like the showmanship like worked for such a like, it's not like a get pumped album or like a get excited about album. It's just like it's sleepy and it's like peaceful and nice. And like, this is an album that got me through bad breakups and messiness that comes after. Somehow it translated so well live. The song I went with was Clark Gable, because I could have picked any song, but I like that song. And it's like I said, this album just holds a special place in my heart and mind. So that's why I went with it, even though it's a little bit off brand, but I thought it was part of my personality from this year and maybe a couple of years afterwards. Maybe still to this day.
What a great pick, and I'm so glad you picked it. This album, I had a few thoughts on it. And like you said, it is front to back. Just put it on repeat and let the whole thing play through for like 3 or 4 days straight, and you'd still want to get bored of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like one of those albums that's just like a huge unifier, and I think not just like amongst our circle of friends for sure. Like there was however like 6 or 7 of us that went to Ride Fest, and I think we were all super stoked to see the Postal Service, myself included, and they were awesome live. Like it was such a great retelling of the album. Like it all came to life, and it couldn't have been any better live. And I think like across our circle of friends, from like you and I, who are probably a little bit more on like well, definitely into the punk rock side, but even on like thrash metal, to other friends that are like super into like the opposite end of like indie rock and that kind of stuff. This album like just sort of checks everyone's boxes for like what we would want to listen to, and maybe it's because it's sort of genreless, I guess.
It is kind of genreless. That's a good way to put it. Like it kind of hits a lot of things, but it's like its own thing too.
And like I've never talked to anyone that has heard the album that doesn't like it. They're just like, oh no, I'm not a big Postal Service fan. Like, how could you be? They're so good.
We're going to get somebody in the WhatsApp chat that's going to say that right away.
I'm sure, yeah. We should also rank Postal Service albums. That's actually one of the things I really like, is they put out one album and they knew it was phenomenal, and just that was it.
Yeah, like you don't need another one.
A moment of time captured in a bunch of envelopes. And my final thought on the Postal Service is not too many years after this album came out. This is super nerdy and just because I work in like advertising and stuff like that, it maybe speaks to me a little bit more. But FedEx had an ad campaign where they were just basically like explaining how easy it is to do things with FedEx, but the background audio track is the intro to Such Great Heights, like the digital keyboardy intro, and it just plays really subtly in the background and sort of gets louder and louder throughout the 30-second spot. And I'm like, whoever worked that in is so fucking smart to basically in a Postal Service ad play the Postal Service in the background. And like it's a shot at the United States Postal Service, basically saying like FedEx is better. And they put a band called the Postal Service in the background. I thought it was so clever.
That's very clever. Again, I can't say enough good things about this album. That's it, though. This is the end of the episode. This is the end of the year. Justin, thanks again. You want to lead us out with your tracks?
Absolutely, Mike. Thanks for an awesome year. It's been amazing being here. So thanks for having me. With the fifth and final picks of the year 2003, off the album Anthem by Less Than Jake, the song is The Science of Selling Yourself Short.
The Postal Service, the album's Give Up. The song is Clark Gable. Thanks for listening. Stay cool and be excellent to each other.
I've come to my senses that I've become senseless, and I could give you lessons how to ruin your friendships. And every last conviction, yeah, I smoked them all away, and I drank my frustrations down the drain, out of the way.
stand-in. The scripted called for rain, but it was clear that day, so we faked it. The marker snapped and I yelled quiet on the set, and then called action. I kissed you in a style Clark Gable would have admired. I thought it classic. I want so badly to believe that there is truth, that love is real. And I want life in every word to the extent that it's absurd. I know you're wise beyond your years, but do you ever get the feel that your perfect verse is just a lie you tell yourself to help you get by? That you tell yourself to help you get by. That you tell yourself to help you get
No, I don't really listen to music. Dude, that's kind of weird.
Why? What do you like?
Right now, punk.
I'm sorry. Avril Lavigne doesn't count as punk.
Oh yeah? Well, what about the Cramps? Stiff Little Fingers. The Clash. Sex Pistols.
I listen to the same music as Marissa Cooper.
We've been on the run, driving in the sun, looking out for number one. California, here we come, right back where we started from. Well, hustlers, grab your guns, your shadow weighs a ton, driving down the 101. California, here